When you think of NFL football, a lot of people will first think of the quarterbacks, wide receivers, maybe some edge rushers, the players that make a big impact on the game. They are usually the ones whose names appear most often on broadcasts and are talked about the most by fans in general. Oftentimes, though, the deciding play of the game doesn't have any of them on the field, and that is because the play I am talking about is the field goal, where fans' eyes for just one moment go off the quarterback or premier defensive player and intently focus on one specific player, the kicker. It all comes down to the kick, whether it's to tie the game and send it to overtime, or they could win the game right there. It's kind of crazy to think about all the physical plays, all the linemen crashing together for 60 minutes, all the tactics used by offense and defense, the counters, the adjustments, all that doesn't matter anymore. The only thing that does is the kick. Kickers are often overlooked, and according to the top 10 contracts at each position, they are the fourth least valuable position in the league. Running backs are also really low, which I made a video about, and you probably know my channel from this video, but go watch it after if you haven't. The only ones below the kicker position are fullbacks, punters, and long snappers, so obviously the kicker is far from the most important piece on the team. Some kickers are more trustworthy than others, but a good portion of the starting kickers in the league are generally reliable. This is the case today, but it wasn't always like this. Over the history of the NFL, kickers have gotten a lot better, and they continue to be more accurate and increase their range every single year. Back in the day, kicking was a lot less consistent. This is obviously because of many reasons. Kickers didn't use the most optimal kicking technique. I mean, just look at that. I'm no kicking expert, but that doesn't look good. The training back then was also subpar and didn't help raise the field goal percentage. But as with most things in the world, it got better over time. New innovations, new training, and new techniques would slowly work their way into the league, which would cause the success rate of field goals to continue to grow as time went on. Another thing that people may not think about is the increased use of domes. Kicking is a lot easier when there isn't rain or snow on the ground and no 20-mile-per-hour winds are going across the field. There are now 10 domes in the NFL, and that number will only continue to rise as more and more new stadiums are being built. Kicking hit an all-time low in 1943, where kickers made just 23.5% of all their field goals, the worst ever recorded in a single season. That wouldn't last long though, as we can take a look at this graph. This shows the field goal percentage from the entire league each season, and we can clearly see that kicking has become a lot more refined, especially since the turn of the century. For almost the entire 20th century, field goal percentage climbed almost linearly, which is insane to think about, as kickers were consistently getting better and better each year. Now obviously that linear growth won't last forever, as you can't go over 100% in the field goal percentage statistic. It is harder to go from 80 to 90% than it is to go from 20% to 30%. If you're in high school or college, you know it's harder to bring up a B to an A than it is a D to a C, and it's the same deal here. Field goal percentage began to plateau, and since 2010, there hasn't been significant improvement in the overall percentage. It is hovering right around 84%, and it doesn't look to be improving by much anytime soon. But this doesn't tell the whole story. Let's take a look at what kind of field goals are being attempted. I have grouped the field goal attempts into 5 different categories based on the yardage: 0 to 19 yards, 20 to 29 yards, 30 to 39 yards, 40 to 49 yards, and 50 plus yards. And just to note, the goalposts were moved back in 1974, which explains the huge drop in the 0 to 19 yard field goals, as those are a lot more rare considering you now had to kick from the 2-yard line to get a field goal that short. After 1974, all the categories either stayed flat or grew as kickers became more reliable. This makes sense because coaches trusted their kickers more, so they attempted more field goals. But obviously we can see a huge change in 2000. 0 to 19 yards declined rapidly after 2000, and this is mainly due to probability and analytics making its way into the game. If you're on the 1 or 2 yard line and have a 4th and goal, taking the chance at a touchdown is a lot better than kicking a field goal as you only have 1 yard to go. And even if you don't get it, the other offense has to start with the ball on their own 1 yard line, making it really hard for them to come back and score with their drive. When you take in all the numbers, it's better to go for it most of the time. The 20 to 29 yard field goals also dropped because of this same reasoning. The 50 plus yarders, on the other hand, started to grow like crazy and are still growing. This is largely due to just how good kickers have become. While the field goal percentage stays constant, the difficulty of the kicks continues to increase. So while kickers may not be putting up a better percentage overall, they are putting up the same percentage while attempting harder kicks. This means that the kickers are still getting better, even though the overall success rate for field goals is not getting better. Let's take a look at how good they've gotten from 50 plus yards out. The field goal percentage league-wide on 50 plus yarders has improved just about every season, and it doesn't show many signs of slowing down. If we compare it to the overall field goal percentage from the same time, we can see how that one begins to plateau, but the 50 plus yarders continue to rise. In the 1900s, 50 yarders were barely even attempted just because of how hard they were to hit. It's a huge asset to a team to only have to drive 35 to 40 yards down the field to get a shot at a 50-yard field goal and put points on the board. Just 20 years ago, a 55-yarder would be celebrated as a huge kick and a rare occasion, but today, it would be almost expected for them to make it. After all, kickers in 2022 made 50-plus yarders at a 69% clip, which means they make a lot more than they miss, so it is expected for them to make it. This is the biggest possible area for improvement for kickers, dialing in the 50-plus yarders, and every year they continue to get better. The field goal percentage from each range, 30 to 39 and 40 to 49 and 50 plus, are getting closer and closer every year, suggesting that the 50-yarders are slowly inching to be as consistent as the 40-yarders. So if these kickers are getting so good, then there has to be a lot of talented kickers in the league, and yes, there definitely are some good ones. Take a guess, out of all the active kickers in the league with at least 20 kicks from 50 plus yards out, who has the lowest success rate? It is Dustin Hopkins, who currently plays for the Cleveland Browns. His percentage sits at 53%, which just shows you how good kickers have gotten. Even the worst in the league makes more than he misses from beyond 50 yards. Now, the highest percentage you would probably guess belongs to Justin Tucker? Well, not quite. Tucker has hit 70% of field goals attempted from the 50-plus yard mark. That's good for 8th of the 23 qualified kickers. The real leader is actually Daniel Carlson with a phenomenal 82.7 success rate. The number 2 spot is a tie with Chris Boswell and Chase McLaughlin, who both sit with 81.8%. So that means Daniel Carlson is probably the best kicker in the league, right? Well, no, obviously not. This stat doesn't tell the whole story, kind of similar to batting average in baseball or field goal percentage in basketball. I think we all know who the best kicker in the league is, and that of course is Justin Tucker. We know he's good, but just how good? To show you how good Justin Tucker is, I think the best way to do it is to look at the kicks that he's missed. He's missed just 40 of his career 407 field goal attempts. That gives him an overall field goal percentage of 90.2%, which is the best all time. But this once again doesn't tell the whole story, so let's look at his misses. This chart includes all of Justin Tucker's misses broken down into the yardage, and there's also a section for blocked kicks, which aren't on him for the most part. Most of his misses come from the 50-plus yard mark. When it comes to inside 50 yards, Justin Tucker is insane. Insane. He's only missed 15 kicks inside the 50, giving him a percentage of 95.3. He will only miss 1 out of every 20 kicks he kicks from inside 50 yards. He's basically automatic. If we go back to the chart, we can see he has as many misses from 40 to 49 yards as he does blocked kicks, and we all know how rare a blocked kick is. Justin Tucker is the most accurate and consistent kicker from inside 50 yards, and it's not even close. But is he struggling with the deep kicks? Not really. He holds the record for the longest field goal ever made at 66 yards to win the game 2 years ago against the Lions. This is also the reason why his field goal percentage from beyond 50 yards is so low. If it's the end of the half or the end of the game and the ball is around the 40 or 50 yard line, making it a 60-plus yard kick, most teams would opt for the Hail Mary. Not the Ravens, though. Justin Tucker attempted 14 kicks from 50-plus last year, which was the most in the league. He is human, so he isn't going to hit those at a 95% rate. Let's compare Tucker's misses to that of Daniel Carlson's. Now, I chose Carlson just because he's in that argument for the second best kicker in the league, along with guys like Boswell, Harrison Butker, and Younghoe Koo. I just chose one of them, and Carlson has the best stats in my opinion, so I went with him. Carlson's misses mostly come from the 40 to 49 range, which is typical because of the volume there. Tucker is an anomaly. Carlson has missed a significant amount of kicks from 39 yards and in even. Unlike Tucker, Carlson has never attempted a 60-plus yarder, and his longest make is 57 yards. This helps prop up Carlson's 50-plus yard percentage because he doesn't kick, those 60, 62, 65-yard field goals like Justin Tucker is. Carlson makes around 90% from inside 50, which is right around where Younghoe Koo also sits. The second most accurate from inside 50 behind Tucker is Harrison Butker, who has a 93.5 success rate in that range. Butker, though, struggles at longer distances, posting just a 66% from field goals beyond 50 yards, and he's not kicking 60-plus yarders like Tucker is. This is what makes Tucker so good. He has the accuracy for short range, the power from long range, and the consistency at pretty much any range you put him out there for. Will there ever be a kicker as good as Tucker is? I think it's more when rather than will, because there probably will be. 20 years ago, some of the best kickers in the league wouldn't be able to hang with the big guys now, just because of the range that these kickers can kick at. Another 30 years from now, Tucker could seem like an average kicker, which is crazy to think about. Eventually, he will be dethroned, as all the data suggests that kickers will only continue to improve. As we've seen before, the success rate from beyond 50 yards continues to grow, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So that begs the question, how good will kickers get? Will their improvement ever stop? Well, no, their improvement will never stop, but their rate of improvement will surely slow down. Maybe in a couple decades, the league will be full of guys like Justin Tucker, which would be quite a sight to see. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me when you look at the data. You can argue as much as you want about the future of the NFL, but the future of the kicker position is definitely looking towards the bright side. And I think a lot of people take for granted how good these kickers in the NFL have gotten. You know, they might miss a few every now and then, and people will complain about it on social media. But at the end of the day, these kickers are as good as it gets, and it's a privilege that we get to watch them every Sunday.